Welcome to the channel, everybody. I've got a really special guest with us all here today. You might have heard of him if you've been following cryptographics. This is where I found out about Scott Sunderland. Really, really awesome dude. Great story to tell. And he's got a book out in the description below. But before we get into any of that, let's just go ahead and share the link out with people on YouTube and Telegram and all that stuff. And we'll wait for people to trickle in. Let me share out this link. Give me 1 second. New software here. Okay. Well, while I'm doing that, Scott, would you mind giving the people an intro about kind of who you are and your background?
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. And thanks for having me. It's awesome.
My pleasure.
We had a great conversation yesterday, so hopefully we can kind of continue that. So who am I? About 20 years ago, I was found myself paralyzed and realized that I kind of asked for it because I was kind of going through something with my business that I just wanted everything to kind of stop so I could breathe. And 3 months later, I was literally laying in a bed, unable to move. And I realized first that I asked for that. And second, it was kind of the journey going through that and understanding why that came and how it's affected my life now, because obviously, you know, I can do this. So yeah, that whole experience, and, you know, I went through a tragedy years later, and that whole experience really has kind of led me to the life that I live today, which is really kind of magical. So if all of that happened to me and I'm where I'm at, then, you know, my message is to find out who you really are, because that's what I had to do. I thought I was this character,
Right.
Scott.
And who you really are, too, is kind of who you want to be. I mean, we're not born with a certain
100%.
identity. It's pick and choose. It's choose your character. And it can be really fun if you're the one in control and if you're conscious of it. I think that when people are sliding by and they're just driving without realizing who's at the wheel, we end up just being what other people think of us. And we don't spend enough time asking ourselves, who do we want to be in this game called life? So I think the point of this video, I really want to tie this video into crypto and how your life experience has allowed you to weather the hardest of times. Really, it's times that other people might not have been able to come back from. It's quite remarkable. And the psychology behind that. And I think it almost relates to what's going on in crypto right now, just in the sense that people are sad, frustrated, defeated, angry, and myself included. You know, I fall into the bear market blues just like everybody else. But I'm hoping some of the wisdom that you have to share can enlighten both myself and others, like moving forward in this crypto game, this life game. And how do we invest wisely? How do we see the bigger picture? And how do we change the way that we frame, you know, a lot of this negative news, or, you know, because we were talking about this on the phone, you know, people can read the same set of facts, which is crazy to me, but people can literally take the same information and process it and reach a completely different conclusion, almost glass half empty versus glass half full. And, you know, some people don't realize what power they really have inside themselves to see the world a different way, or to be a different way in the world. And so, yeah, that's kind of what I want people to get out of this video. So we're going to talk about all that stuff.
Yeah, all about it. And I mean, and kind of, again, our conversation yesterday, and really the conversation I have every day is, you got to pay attention to what you're paying attention to, you know, because, you know, just like you said, you can, if you get a message, a text message, you can read that message, that text, in a multiple different ways. You know, you can, and it's all depending on the emotion that you're in. So if you're angry and someone's pissing you off, and you're going to get this text, and it's just words on a screen, right? Right? It's not somebody talking to you. It's not even somebody there. It's just words show up on a screen somewhere. And suddenly now that can make you more angry because you perceive that as somebody trying to piss you off, right? Or same thing, if someone is hurting you, you know, whether someone is breaking up with you or, you know, something like that, or boss yelling at you, it all depends on the way you read the text. So in my experience, and what I try to help people understand, is we believe in this world of events. And when these events happen to us, we lose our job, or our crypto goes down, or a relationship ends, it puts us in an emotion. And that emotion can be, if suddenly you're not abundant because the numbers aren't on the screen as big as you would like them, right? And or this you feel alone because now you're not in this relationship. But in my experience, it's actually been the emotions that I am addicted to. In other words, the emotions I wake up every day tied to, I carry them around like dogs. And one dog might be frustration, another dog might be anger, another dog might be, being unseen, or, when we carry those emotions around us, we then see the world through those emotions. So if I'm tied to frustration, then chances are I'm going to see all things frustrating. If I'm tied to anger, then chances are things are going to show up for me to make me angry, right? So it really isn't about the events in our life. It really is about the emotions that we are addicted to. And those emotions we're addicted to because we were exposed to them in our first 7 years. And this is just scientific fact. And think about it. If you have a pipe, which I use the analogy a lot, if you have a pipe that runs from the top of your head down to your feet, and the first 7 years of your life you spend with your parents, you spend with your grandparents, you spend with your teachers, you spend with your siblings, you spend with your classmates, and all the emotions that you feel that they feel, because when your dad's angry, you feel anger. So you stuff it in the pipe. Anger goes in the pipe. When you see your mom and she's sad, or she's maybe depressed, well, then you shove that in the pipe. And we fill this pipe up in those first 7 years to where nothing else can go in. The sponge is full. So then we start to go realize and wonder why in our everyday, why am I feeling always so alone? Why am I feeling always so unseen? Why am I always feeling unabundant, never having enough, right? Because we have these little factories in the pipe. So we end up living that. So what we need to do is start unpacking the pipe and taking out all those things. And it starts with a little bit so you can get more of what you want, so you can have the experiences that actually you want in your life instead of what you're addicted to.
Yeah, I mean, that's really profound as a realization. And I always catch myself, I don't always act in the most conscious manner myself. So I'm not here to preach I'm some perfect human. We're all just individuals living a human experience, you know what I mean? But what I think is fascinating, or just profound about your experience, and for people that haven't watched the previous video with Cryptographics, shout out Cryptographics, go like and subscribe. But
So cool.
Scott here goes through basically his whole story, and I'm sure you don't. I mean, you can tell it again if you want to, but I mean, the story's out there in the book. It's also on YouTube. Like, you can basically get a gist of what you went through. Was a near-death experience, right? I mean,
yeah, in a lot of different ways. Mostly it was, yeah. I mean, in going through, and listen, here's the thing. I think, where I'll be honest, it really doesn't matter what my story is. It all ties back into what your individual story is, because we all suffer trauma. And that was just my trauma. Laying in a hospital bed was my big awakening, of, I thought about this a lot, 6 months ago. I wanted to escape where I was. I wanted people to stop yelling at me. I wanted people to pay me. I wanted people to feel sorry for the position I was being put in my business and in my work and in my projects. And now all of that has come true. Now I've gotten away from all of that. Now they feel sorry for me. Now they, all the things showed up the way I wanted to show. I got the bonus plan. I mean, I really didn't think it all through, right? But here I am laying in this bed. So Nothing else mattered to me. The business didn't matter to me. The money didn't matter to me. The jobs didn't matter to me. The people that were yelling at me didn't matter to me anymore. The only thing that mattered to me is I just want to walk. I just want to feed myself. I just want to be able to have a conversation, and I just wanted to be able to do this. That was it. And, for, months and months and months, you just kind of lay there and wait for it to come, wait for it to show up. But something really interesting happened in that environment that I was in, because I realized, watching people coming in and out of my room, I realized that Scott was fully here. The mind is still going. Nothing changed up here. I'm still Scott, but my body said no more. We're tired of your shit. We're not doing it anymore. You're torturing us. So we're just going to go on strike. We're going to shut down. The computer needs to be rebooted. So I really started to think about that of, okay, so if Scott's all here, then what is this? What is this? What is moving my arm? What is getting up and walking without even thinking about it? Who is that? Right? So then it became of, who am I separated from that I've been my whole life? Now I am not, it is not inside me anymore. What is that? Is that universe? Is that God? Is that what? Or is that who I really am, just taking a break? So it really is, we kind of get on in our little worlds of, this happened to me, therefore this is why I am the way I am.
Yeah.
When I say, okay, maybe that's happened to you, for you to look at it, try to fix it. And in the meantime, as you're trying to fix it, because that's what I was trying to do, then you then get everything you want, because that you really want, because now you just you finally give up. You finally say, okay, well, the condition has overtaken me. The relationship has overtaken me. You stop trying to fight it, and you just kind of lay in bed. And then suddenly something shows up that you've wanted all along, and you didn't do it. So that is exactly what happened to me. And I learned from it. Finally,
Right.
Finally, after being beaten, right? I finally figured it out. And I just said, hey, maybe these things that are happening to us, that are the worst things that ever could happen to us, is just to help realize the power that we are. And we stop trying to do, we stop trying to be, and allow the being, and allow the consciousness, whatever you want to call it, the universe, the God, to enter us and let us be happy, because ultimately that's what we want. We want to be happy.
Yeah.
Right.
Happy or just content. I mean, life isn't just a pure orgasm, constant ecstasy, but the ability to just function in the world according to your terms, not somebody else's terms. And
yes,
all that experience, it's talk about persistence and patience, because that's what it takes to survive this bear market. But you've got
awareness
that on steroids. It's like, that's next level stuff right there. And so after learning about this, after going through this experience, triumphing over it, I guess let's backtrack to even before the whole series of events happened. You said that you were kind of asking for it, right? And I think that's a point that not a lot of people would want to admit to themselves, is that they feel badly about things because they're actually asking for it. But when it comes to personal responsibility, taking responsibility for your own actions, not finger pointing and stuff, an example that I see is this lawsuit or whatever. And I hate to even give something like this attention, but it's almost comical, because it's a perfect example of someone not wanting to take responsibility for their actions. Is some guy buys crypto high, sells low, loses about $2,000. Nothing that devastating really in the long grand scheme of things. I know 2,000 is a lot of money, but you can make that back in a little, not very long. Decides to file a lawsuit because instead of taking responsibility, wants to blame everybody else for their actions. Well, the irony of the whole thing is that the guys that he is paying for the lawsuit actually ended up being the scammers themselves. Like, they're just a low budget law firm that has terrible reviews of people actually lying. And
were you in an accident? The big billboard. Were you in an accident?
Stories of that, because they'll file any lawsuit under the sun, but some companies like these, they don't actually care if it follows through or not. And so, losing $2,000 is one thing, but then think about all the lawyers all the lawyer fees.
Well,
that
that's
would be
the thing.
involved.
I mean, think about the nonsense in it. And this is why I say, so
Right.
for me, that's the story. Okay. And this is the story we use. And this is kind of where it brings spirituality into it, I guess. And here, listen, I'm not trying to tell you need to go into crypto. You need to go into the HEX ecosystem, Richard Hart. You don't need to go into spirituality. It's like, hey, listen, it's here. I mean, that's all I'm just saying. View it in the right way. View your life in the right way. But in this instance, number one, if somebody lost $2,000, well, what about the people that invested in Tesla? What about the people who invested in Apple? Because if you would have bought Apple 6 months ago, I think it was 170s. I don't know what it is now. So if you put enough money in it, you lost your money if you sold it, right?
Yeah,
it's all what it comes down to.
And we have this culture of people suing each other all day long, because you could have thrown a dart at a board and picked any cryptocurrency, any stock, and you could have lost just as much money. But, just because HEX is some 100%. High profile thing. Yeah.
But this is what I mean. Like, so this person lost $2,000. What does it cost to fight the lawsuit? You know what I mean? And not even in a monetary sense. Let's say somebody says, oh yeah, no problem. I'm going to fight this for you. And you don't have to pay me until you collect, but you got to put your time, you got to put your attention on this thing of fight. And what fight is separation. So now, and this is where I see, this first thing that drew me into this ecosystem, and HEX particularly, was the environment of it, was the people in it, was the community in it. And I would watch you, and I would watch, cryptographics. I would watch Crypto Heartbeat. I would watch, all the RG3, in Discord Syndicate and Kinetics and all these guys, very silently, quietly behind the scenes. And I saw the same thing over and over again. And that was people that want the same thing together. Now, you can say, well, we all want Lambos. Well, that's great. Not going to make you happy, but it'll be fun for sure, right?
Yeah.
And I see the same, but it's a commonality. It brings people together to where I don't need to take from you in order for me to be, I guess, brought more to me, right? More abundance comes to me. Because
that's
normally
the scarcity.
That's how it goes.
Right. That's the scarcity versus abundance mindset to a T 100%. Right there. It's people that
I need to take from you. I hope you lose, so then I can get the gain from because you lost. I get it. It goes from your pile to my pile.
And it's that same.
That's
one second. It's that same line of thought that goes along with, see, wealth generation is a positive sum game, and trading is a zero sum game. Because if we can create 100%. A bigger pie, get more people on board, we can all win together. But I think the opposite side of that coin is this outrage towards people that got in early, not realizing that it's not a finite closed system, right? No matter who got in early, and if they want to sell or not, that's totally their prerogative. But you have infinitely more potential to gain by making the pie bigger than complaining that the system is broken because someone got in early or earlier than you, and not even that much earlier in the grand scheme of things, right? But people will just point to that. And then you could also say that about anything else. Oh, the people that got into Tesla early are just going to dump forever. The people that got into Bitcoin early, oh, they're just going to dump forever. This game is rigged. I'm going to go home now. It's like the argument really, it just comes from a scarcity mindset, I believe.
It does, because you believe the things that you're trying to acquire are going to make you happy. Ultimately, that's the game, right? If I have enough of this, I'm going to have millions of dollars, and then finally I'm going to be able to breathe. Well, it's not, it doesn't work that way. I'm just telling you, as an older dude who has invested in a lot of different things. I've owned my own business for 40 years. It always comes down to, I think this house is going to make me happy. I think the boat's going to do it. I think the car's going to do it. And none of it does it. The money doesn't do it. And that, we talked about that yesterday, was the Robin Williams effect. He had every single thing he could possibly want. Every goal that he wanted, he was able to achieve, and he killed himself. Because think about that. That is the ultimate failure. There is no bigger failure than that. Yeah. I manifested everything I wanted. I wanted $5 million, $5 million is in my bank account. And I am miserable because I don't have the partner that I want, because she was attracted to the Lambo and not me. And I'm not happy with me. Right.
Yeah.
So it comes to a point, and to, again, what you're saying with, with the crypto community in general, and HEX in particular, of, all this FUD and everything. Listen, I got to be honest with you. I love it. I love it, because you ultimately have to believe in what you are investing in. That's what investment is. So, I had some really good investments. I invested in advanced micro devices, AMD.
Nice.
I bought AMD when it was $9. It went to 160. But there was so many times where, I would go into chat rooms and the Intel guys would come in and say how bad AMD was. Their processors are never going to get any
those
traction.
Intel guys.
Right. And I would listen to it, but what didn't I do? I didn't sell.
Yeah.
I didn't sell. I
Well,
held
that's
it,
conviction.
right?
That's confidence
That is
and conviction and mental strength and
That's
clarity.
right.
And that's what's going to serve you well. If you believe in your investment for a particular set of reasons, nobody else can shake you out of that. Only you can shake yourself out, again, by choosing what you focus on. Choosing, if you want to listen to some nameless troll that has never built anything in their life and has never invested successfully in their life, and it's just like noise, right? You really need to cut through the noise and see the signal, see the bigger picture. And if you don't believe, then you're probably in the wrong place, or maybe you're not ready to invest.
You're in the wrong place if you don't believe it. Yeah, listen, if I'm believing because you believe, well, what's that going to do? Right? Because
I say that you need to sell yourself first before you could sell other people.
100%. 100%. You have to see, when I first got involved with crypto, it was, I don't know, maybe a year ago. And I first did the study because I started to see blockchain as a thing. And the one thing that I'm really grateful for was that I was able to see things before they were things, right? I was able to see them through. And, when I was a kid, I could get on the telephone with my girlfriend and I could go anywhere in my house as long as it was in 10 feet because I was attached to the wall, right, with a cord. Yeah. And all I kept thinking is, oh my God, my dad's here. I want to talk to my girlfriend. I wish I could just be in my room. And then the cordless phone shows up. Years later, cordless phone shows up, right? Then I'm thinking, this is amazing, but how cool would this be if I could take this in my car? If I could go drive around and be on the phone with people, and then suddenly the cell phone shows up. So for me, it's my wanting those things that those things start showing up for me. And that can get really far-fetched for people.
Yeah.
But when you start to understand the process of how the mind works, right? Then you start to understand, listen, if I believe this thing, whatever it is, if it's Apple, if it's HEX, if it's Ethereum, if it's Bitcoin, if I believe this thing is going to do this for me, and again, it's getting clear on what you want from it, right? You don't want the money.
Yeah.
You don't want to hold invisible money and numbers on a screen. That's not what you want. You want what it's going to give to you. You want the freedom, right?
Freedom.
You want the freedom from concern, right? That's Jim Carrey. I don't want to be, concerned with all these things going on out there. I want to have my own self-sovereignty. I want to have all that. And when I started to look at blockchain, I started to understand, well, this is kind of the result. And this is the phone on the wall. So what's going to come down the pike, right?
Yeah.
It's what's going to come down the pike. So right now we're in the beginning stages. Somebody has an idea they're making the cordless phone right now. So you just want to be in line in that.
Yeah.
Regardless, it's going to happen.
It sounds a bit esoteric to say that your language creates your reality, or the way we talk about things literally pushes them into existence. And it sounds woo-woo and hippie-ish and all that. But with enough people focused on a particular outcome, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy for actual tangible reasons. I mean, we're thousands of us out here across the entire country, across the entire world, focused on a couple particular outcomes. HEX to the world, PulseChain to the entire world, financial freedom for everyone. Take your keys back into your own hands. A couple of these core principles just propagate throughout the entire community. And I think that with enough directed, focused attention from all these different people, it eventually will come true, just because we have people expending their energy on it, not just their money, but their time, their power, their words. And to me, it seems inevitable. Obviously, we still need to do the work. We still need to put the energy in. But that's what I see from my perspective. And information is not symmetrical. So if other people don't see the same side of information that I see, yeah, HEX, PulseChain, it might look like an uncertain bet. It might look like, oh, this could all just collapse because maybe you're brand new, and I totally get that. Or maybe you just don't have enough skin in the game, or you don't have enough sense of your own power and your own ability to affect the world. And you're thinking, oh, it's in the hands of, whoever may be. I don't really like that position. I'm choosing to take a more active role because I think this can actually help a lot of people. And the way I see things, it's almost a matter of when, not if. HEX comes back and succeeds, PulseChain comes back and succeeds. It's a matter of when.
Yeah, and again, it's when we're specifically talking about HEX and and Richard and the whole community, and seeing the OGs of the people who went through the beginning. Listen, I listen to them, because I draw my conclusion from these people that are in front of me. And, when I see what they went through in the beginning of, listen, man, we didn't know, we were, we were fudded out. Because,
you could watch my early videos and see that even I was like, well, I chalked it up to Pascal's wager at some point. Like, if I'm right, it goes great. If I'm wrong, oh, well. And then I had to do my own convincing of myself. But it's funny to see the FUD now because although it exists,
because
it's everywhere.
Why? You know what the difference is? You know what the difference is? Expectation. Expectation. There was no expectation back then. Hey, listen, I'm going to put, a couple grand, maybe, $1,000 into this thing. And hey, I heard, Crypto Heartbeat story of, he put $600 in or something and bought his daughter a car, and that to me is real, that's a real story because I've lived that real story, right? I didn't have any real expectation of certain things. The ones that I did, I would stare at the numbers and they would never move ever. And it's like, man, I got to get away. I got to do something. And then that's where, in my opinion, the spirituality comes in, because just go be happy. Just go do things that take your mind off of it. If you sit there and you watch those numbers, they will not move. I promise you. They're not going to move.
They'll move down one day and you'll be upset all day. And it's like, then you're a slave to the charts.
Your whole expectation of the way that I'm going to get, drive this car, right? Because, that's the big thing, obviously, in the crypto community, when Lambo, right? So when is all this going to come to me? You got it already. You have it already. The other day I was walking, something was going on in my world, and, I was kind of frustrated and all this. And I said, God, you're just so stupid. 20 years ago, the only thing you wanted to do was to walk across a room, to be able to do this. And now you're upset because this isn't happening for you. And I don't know, it may have been I was cooking eggs and they weren't coming out right. You know what I mean? Like, you need a new thing to make you line up with the way you want to feel, with what you're addicted to. So,
and you need to replace addictions, right? One addiction 100%. Should be replaced with another. It's not like you can just delete them. They don't just go away. They get replaced and overlaid on each other. And it's funny that one of the reasons HEX was invented was to free people from having to look at a chart, because it really is a set it and forget it thing. But it's become so much not that. And I find it almost ironic, because it's become this whole involved movement. And you can be as involved or uninvolved as you want to be. For example, I know Huddle Dog. He used to make a bunch of videos. He said, all right, bear market's here. I'm just going to stake and chill. And he's off living his life, probably, balanced, regular life. And I hope he's happy, but you have the ability to choose to just opt out and just be like, well, I'll come back when the markets are better. I'll stake for year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, and I'll come back when things are okay again. And that's what HEX was supposed to free people of. So, but then again, there ended up being this emergent property of the community, which I don't think anybody really expected, is that because we're all tied together through staking, we've actually formed a bond, and we've actually formed a self-fulfilling promotion machine, a community.
Yeah, a community.
And it's like I could have never imagined it would come this far, but it's here, and there's some of us that are trying to still push the message out, and then I know there's a lot of us out there that probably got involved in the last year and maybe bought at prices much higher than 3 cents, and that's going to be your test of conviction.
So let me ask you, just like Steve with cryptographics, just what is it? Why you do it? Why do you get on stream with people? What is the real message? And to me, that message is like, hey, listen, this did good for me. And I see a lot in this thing. And I'm going to tell you my experience of it. I'm going to tell you my knowledge of it. I'm going to share this with you. And then you can make your own decision in what you want to do with it. But I hope you join me in my community. And I'll be honest, my life in the spiritual community is exactly the same. There is no difference. It's come and join me. So in other words, when we come together, we become more powerful. 2 people become 3. Something happens there, right? 6 people become 12. It just, something happens. And I see that in crypto. And I have seen that for most of my life in the spiritual community. Everywhere else, I see separation. If you own a business, you have a competitor.
Well, if you have cryptos, you have a lot of competitors or people that pretend to be.
We're still in the same. This is what
I know. I want to get that point out too.
Because
it's us versus the Fed, if anything. It's not us versus Bitcoin. It's us versus the world that we're trying to fix.
If you're a Philadelphia Eagles fan, your Philadelphia Eagles will not play if the NFL is shut down. So when we have fights between HEX and Bitcoin, who cares, man? We're all in the same game. Yeah. Now, we can say, well, HEX is the new Bitcoin, and we can go down that road. And that I agree on. I 100% agree on. And when I tell people, listen, if you're going to go into the crypto space, this is what I think you should look at. No financial advice, right? We all have to say that. And I say the same thing in the spiritual community. The people that I help with finding out the world that they want to live is, listen, it could be ugly. It could get ugly because you're going to have to pull things out of you that you have been pushing down. You don't want to see. But I'm telling you, through that process, you're going to gain a freedom. And in the beginning, just like onboarding somebody, I onboarded somebody at, 10 cents. Okay. So has my conviction changed? No. And in fact, I know there's a lot of us that were saying 1 cent. Oh my God, I hope it goes to 1 cent. I mean, and think about the rationale in that. Well, because I'm going to get more. Why? Because it's going to go way, way higher. It's going to go way, way higher. I know that. I have a conviction that it's going to go way, way higher. It's going to hit all-time high again. Right? So and then we wonder why it goes down. Because you wanted it to go to 1 cent. It's kind of crazy, again, the way we think. But I think the first thing you have to really ask yourself is why? Why do you want this thing? Do you want to be a part of a community? Do you want to be a part of a group that we can all get together and we can party and we can hang out and we have this commonality and we can see the abundance in each other? We can see the happiness in each other? Or do we want to go and be miserable? What is it? So I think everybody has to really understand why they want what they want, first off.
Well, that's a great point about the 1 penny thing. It's almost a bullish thing that people want 1 penny because whether they realize it or not, if they want 1 penny because they think it's going to go so much higher, it's bullish without them even realizing it. But I mean, I don't ever say I want 1 penny. Like I just want up and to the right forever. But hey, if it goes to 1 penny and bounces back, great. And the reasoning that people might want a dip, if that's because they want a dip because they think they want to buy the dip, that's actually a net positive thing. If they want a dip because they literally just want to see HEX fail, there's only a couple of guys like that really vocally out there. Well, they can be our haters can be our motivators to some degree.
Everything needs a villain. Everything needs a villain. Listen, you went to the movies to see Spider-Man or Batman or whatever, right? The Avengers, because why? You don't want to just see the Avengers running around a screen. You need a villain.
Well, so yeah, and
You
some of
want to
these
see the
villains, I
you
think
want to see the Matrix because there's a
some of
villain.
these Eric Wall type guys or whatever, I really do think that they know the role they're playing and they're
Oh
aware
my
of it,
God,
and
are
it's
you kidding
entertainment for
me?
them. Like you can
It's
tell.
not. Listen, I'm going to tell you right now. It's not entertainment. It's involvement. Because
Yeah,
they know, listen, we all heard it a
engagement
million times.
baiting.
You know, any publicity is great publicity, right? So when there's a villain,
Mhm.
the game starts to get really exciting
But it makes
because
the
it's
story
okay.
good because
What's he going
everybody
to say?
loves an underdog story, and that's what even the documentary is
They
going to be
fall in
based
line
around.
with the story, though.
Yeah,
They fall into the story and they forget that it's a story. So, right? So then
yeah.
suddenly we get intoxicated by this story of what Eric Wall is talking about, right? Are you dependent on Eric Wall being happy? I mean, and your happiness depends on him? I mean,
A
come
lot
on.
of people sure
Listen,
act like that, right?
I know because they allow it. Because
Yeah,
they just don't know better. They
yeah,
don't understand the end goal here. And listen, what do we do when we look at the price chart? We're looking at the 4-hour chart, then we're looking at the 8-hour chart, then we're looking at the 16-hour chart, then
yeah,
we're looking at the week-long chart. Just zoom out and see the whole damn thing. And that's all I'm saying here.
yeah.
Can we just zoom on out and see what's happening here?
Yeah.
We're coming together instead of separation. That is the ultimate goal in anything in your life.
Yeah, and I kind of
Right?
like coming together against a hater. You know, I do enjoy a little bit of
It's the
that
underdog
sport from
story.
time to time. What I really don't enjoy is seeing the cannibalization of people going after each other. Like we should really just be focused on growing the community. I mean, but hey, I'm not trying to talk down to anybody because I am a victim of this too. I fall into these traps all the time. I need to constantly remind myself to, again, like you're saying, zoom out, see the bigger picture, realize that we're here to onboard the world. That's the way the price goes up. Fighting's not going to get us anywhere. And if you don't believe in it, well, maybe step away for a while. Maybe you shouldn't be investing in the first place. Maybe you're not quite ready yet. But try to figure out the objective reasons of why we actually believe, why I really do believe HEX is a better version of Bitcoin for particular reasons, trustless yield, and many other reasons. Hold on really quickly. I want to give a shout out to some donors here. RH Max, thank you for so much for the $25. Thanks for having these conversations. They're great for the community. And then Jerry Oaksmith just had to one up him with the 25.56.
That's great.
Love the stream, gents. Thanks, Jerry. You're the man.
That's great.
Great mod, Jerry. Great mod.
Love it.
Yeah. So what were we talking about? I mean, what do
Yeah,
you have
I mean,
for
we all
advice?
have to we all have to kind of zoom out here and really see, because listen, you know, when you really start to understand blockchain, you start to understand crypto in general. You know, I went through the whole .com thing and there was everything out there. It was just everything. And I invested in some shit and I invested in some good stuff.
Yeah.
And you just have to see. And I know when I looked at, you know, like Apple, for example, when I looked at that, there was a lot of hate around it. Oh my God. And I would go into CompUSA. That was the computer store where you would go, right? I would go into CompUSA and I would see all these window programs everywhere littered. And there would be this one rack of Macintosh. And I'm like, who in the right mind would buy a Mac? That is the dumbest thing. And then, you know, I built one of the very first Apple stores. And I remember going in there and seeing the products and the ecosystem. And more than that, I saw the people. And I'm like, wait a minute. This is something, because I needed a phone. I had the old Motorola flip phone.
Me too.
Right? With the two-way talkie, right? Kick, right?
Yeah.
It's the greatest thing ever until I saw the iPhone.
Right.
And then I'm like, got to get an iPhone. I got to get, well, there you go. I got to get an iPhone. And as soon as I walked in there, then I saw the computers and I thought, well, the iPhone works with this laptop. And then I got the laptop. And then, of course, I got the desktop. And then I've been in the ecosystem. Every one of my kids, 5 of them, they all have them. They all have the, you know, everything.
Yeah.
Right. So,
and that's because Apple makes better products. And when you see the product and it speaks for itself, you know, Tesla's never spent a dime on ads. And when you see something like HEX, to make an analogy, I think people overlook certain aspects, like the immutable code. The code will literally be here longer than our lifetimes. And I don't think people...
And why is this community? Because again, community was a big part of me looking at this thing. Why is this community so involved with this thing? What is it? Like, it's the same as me walking into the Apple store. Why are these guys so passionate about this phone? And it rings very true. It rings very, very true. And listen, look, man, I don't care. You can just having this community put together this documentary. I mean, are you serious that, you have a documentary that's going to come out, which I got to tell you, from what I see, and, I love documentaries, and from what I see is pretty spectacular. I mean, very, very well done. What do you think when that goes out into the world? What do you think is going to happen? And I don't care if somebody looks at it negatively or if somebody looks at it positively. What's the magic word? They're looking at it.
Yeah, all publicity is good publicity, and it depends on the lens that you have on, the way you see the world. A lot of people will watch this documentary, Hexicans included, or Hex investors included, and they're not going to like it because they're going to think maybe it makes RH look bad, or maybe it's not just a glowing positive Hex review. But there is going to be controversy because it does require a story to be told, because that's what people like to watch. Everyone loves a story. And if 50% of the people love it, 50% of the people hate it, if you're reaching 10 million people, well, great, you have 5 million new onboards.
I mean, listen, you still can't argue with what it's done. And again, and especially now, when you buy this, when you invest in Hex, and again, no financial advice, but when you invest, of course, it's so crazy we even have to say that, right? But when you're investing in this, you're investing in an ecosystem. You're investing in a community. You're investing. And so even if you don't think Hex is it, well, you're still going to get, PHEX. You're still going to get on another chain. You're still going to be, right in front of PulseX, which is kind of insane, if you ask me. I think that's just absolutely amazing. And PulseChain. And listen, it's the better automobile. It's the better telephone. PulseChain is the better telephone. Yeah. It's not hanging on a wall connected to a cord. Now we have cheaper and we have faster. Faster being the key word. Yeah, faster is key. And, that's the thing. There's always going to be innovation. There's always going to be it. So you just have to back, not even the right horse. You got to back the right stable. Yeah. And for me, this just makes sense to me because obviously I'm aligned with it. And I understand the limitations of some of the other ones. It's the same as .com. It's the same. A lot of them had some good use cases. A lot of them were kind of a pipe dream. I invested in pipe dreams. Yep. They're not around.
But you could have a good use case too, and it's just not the right timing for that either. So
it's not the right timing. It's not the right adoption. When I look at, and when we talk about adoption, listen, everything, more stakers every day. Right. And that's what I look at it as. The staking function is amazing. And people will say, well, that's a scam. Okay, well, they thought electricity was a scam. They thought running water was a scam.
I remember seeing an advertisement from like the 1910s about, it was a FUD about electricity. Like they had a bunch of horse and buggies getting trapped in these electrical wires and getting electrocuted because it was going to, and actually we have a really funny comment that I want to also bring up to get on the topic of why people hating Richard Hart. People thought Steve Jobs was a douchebag too, and Apple did.
He got fired from his own company. I mean, he got fired from his own company because of his beliefs. And oh God, I love this example of Steve Jobs because it is exactly the same. It's the same as, polarizing. It's polarizing, right? You're polarized by Donald Trump. He won. Yeah. Because whether you liked him or you hated him, you put him in your sight lines. Right. And then he comes in. He's the attention that you give, right? And then suddenly, so people wonder, well, why was he elected? Because you put your attention on him. And here he is in your everyday life, right? So Steve Jobs is brilliant in it because he was hated. Yeah. He was viewed as such a douche. He was viewed as this controlling, lunatic running the halls, demanding, no, we can do this when people said we can't. And then magically they did. Magically it worked out. And thank God it worked out for us, right? Because we have this amazing technology now. So that doesn't stop. So the year 2022 is not the same year as 1822 22. A lot of innovation has happened. We are not the same type of people. We live longer. We are different. We're
cyborgs.
Interact with it, right?
We got cell phones.
So it always has to happen. Innovation has to happen. So I look at communication, that has changed, right? Our environment in which we live, the buildings in which we live, that has changed. Every single thing you look in history, every single thing has changed. What hasn't? The dollar. It's still the same.
Yep.
So what is the last thing that really needs to change here is the financial system. I have walked around with $300 in my wallet, cash, for a month, because who uses cash anymore? And I'm amazed by it. I'm like, I took this money out. I really don't know why.
Yeah, how many bars are cashless now? And which is terrible for if you care about privacy. I mean, that's actually a terrible thing. And we're getting into the part where they're fighting it, right? First they ignore it, then they fight you, and then you win, or whatever Gandhi said.
That's when you know you're on the right team, in my opinion, because all you need to do is go back in time, go back in our history, and it was the one. Henry Ford is building a car in a garage that doesn't have a door big enough that he can get it out. And everybody's sitting there. I don't know what he's doing. He's a lunatic down the street. Don't talk to him. He's in there building an automobile. It's a carriage that doesn't need horses. Oh my God, what a lunatic. What a lunatic. So we have to understand that in our history is the answer for everything that you need.
Yep.
It's right there in front of you. Yeah. So got to back the right stable. That's it.
Yeah.
And not stable coin.
I get what you're saying. It's all history repeats itself, and we can learn from the patterns of history, and it's called inductive reasoning, right? We can just assume that if innovation plays out the same way, well, look, people get angry and scared of new innovations, and that's happening a lot, especially with HEX, but at crypto in general as well. They're trying to fight it. They're trying to arrest people that use Tornado Cash. But to shift topics a little bit, I want to talk about something esoteric, and a lot of people, a lot of the more left-brain people might not love the idea of visualization, right? But I really think that visualization is such a powerful meditative tactic for you to actually get what you want. This guy says, Bobby Hexelrod, everybody visualize $100 HEX. I can't tell you how many times I literally have done that, and I do that all day long. Even when I was first purchasing HEX, I was purchasing it as imagining every HEX being $1 and being like, wow, well, if they're all $1, this is how many, dollars I would like to have one day. And so far, we've tapped 50 cents. $1 used to seem like a pipe dream, and now it seems like, well, if we don't hit that in the next bull market, that'd be pretty far fetched to not hit $1. And so, what do you think about visualization as a tool?
Oh, well, it only saved my life. So when I was laying in that bed, and I really didn't have, a diagnosis in probably the first 2 to 3 weeks, and thought it was a very rare and very aggressive form of MS. And I thought, well, nope. Not buying it type of thing. I know it's not that. It's just whatever. And I had a picture on a wall in my hospital room of me standing on the top of Alta ski resort in Utah, one of my favorite places on earth. And I was standing there, and because I didn't have a whole lot to do, I couldn't go anywhere. My room was my cage. And I would sit there and I would just stare at that picture. And in staring at that picture, I became it actually became my reality. And why I say that is this. I started to study it because when I looked at it, it made me feel good. It just made me feel good. It was kind of my little vacation from the prison that I was in. And I got really good. I would look at it, and then my eyelids didn't even shut. My eyes would roll up into my head, and I would see the picture in my mind. And I would do that over, stare at it for 5 seconds, close for 10, 5, 10, 5, 10. And here I am. And I have skied. And I don't know, years later, I took one of my sons, for his birthday to Alta. And I'm on the chairlift that the picture was taken at the top of. And I realized this, and this wave of emotion came over me. Now, this is a 4-chair, and there is me on the edge, and then there's this woman, and turned out her niece, who was probably in her 20s, and then my son, who's on the far side of the chair. And because he couldn't get far enough away from me, right? So I am in this emotion, and overcame and tears started to come out, filling my goggles up. And the woman looks at me and she says, "Are you okay?" And I told her the story. And by the time we got to the top of that lift, she was like, "I'm taking this picture. This is the most amazing story." She's hugging me. They're both crying. We're all crying. And my son's like, "Can we just go?" And she's like, "Get in the picture," screaming at him. But that day would have never come if I didn't see that before it came. And all I did was put an imprint in my mind of this is where I want to be. So visualization is what you do to live your reality on a day-to-day basis. Now, you are writing the story, you are writing the page that you are going to live the day after. So I'm writing my story that I'm going to live tomorrow. So you better be really careful on the story that you write. If you're still laying in a bed, unable to move at, year 10, well, chances are that's what you're going to get.
Right.
But if you can see yourself on the top of that mountain, with the skis on, snow falling, wind at the back, sun on the face, chances are that's what you are going to live the next day. And you get better at it and better at it and better at it.
And once you've experienced it, then it's easier for you to buy into it. But so we talked about these thought patterns. These thought patterns are habitual. We know that. We know that if you're...
that is why I am here, baby.
Yes.
Because I'm proof that it works. You can't argue with me. It worked. Right. And it's worked over and over and over again. And I'm not the only proof that's out there. You just got to look for the proof, because that proof is your proof if you accept it. So $1, $100, it doesn't make a difference. You will get the life that you want. That's what you want. That's what you want. Right? It's not how much HEX you have, which is fantastic. It's great, because think about what we would be able to do with that as a community. Think of the people, the awareness that we will be able to bring into people when suddenly you don't need it. I've been grabbing money my whole life. Suddenly I don't need to grab money. Imagine how I could help these people. And, from where I live, hurricane just came through, destroyed people's lives. Watched it. And yet you go through the streets and everybody's smiling. Everybody's happy. Oh, it's going to be okay. We're going to make it through it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because what does it do? It brings the community together. When the towers came down at 9/11, what did it do? It brought the community together. You walk on the streets of New York right now. Oh, it's right back to New York City, baby. Right? No one's looking at you. I don't care if you're wearing a duck suit. It's just business as usual in New York City. But back then, everybody fought for each other. Everybody came together. And listen, that's what we need to do. Not just in this community. We need to do it in the world.
Yep.
So, right?
And,
so we're on the right team as far as I'm concerned, because this is where this is bringing us. It's bringing us to a place, then again, and I don't care what crypto you're in, man. I don't care. I don't care what spirituality you're in. I don't care what God that you pray to. We're on the same team. We just want better. We just want better. So the distractors will be out there. Don't pay attention to them. That's my opinion.
I agree. And yeah, to end to try to sum up, I think the visualization as a tactic, as a methodology, we have thought patterns, like Scott was mentioning at the very beginning of this video, that we actually addict to, whether we want to believe that or not. We can be addicted to feeling miserable, because the addiction, the thought pattern creates the feeling in the body that then expresses itself into the world. But how do you replace those feelings? You need to replace the overlying or the underlying thought pattern. How do you replace the thought pattern? With visualization, because the visualization is the replacement thought pattern that leads to the feeling. And the visualization leading to the feeling is the important part, because that's how you get out of the rut. Basically, you're not going to, you can tell yourself to do something the opposite way all day long in your mind, but if you don't feel it in your body, you're not going to have those same synaptic reconnections.
100%. And, and when you say the synaptic, it's a switch. The synapses are in your brain, and they're a road. And, when you feel guilt, well, you've been feeling it forever, and it's a road that's been built. So that's immediately where the process goes. It's a habit. The synaptic switch is habit. It's thrown to one side and it stays there until you start thinking differently. And it's a practice. Dr. Joe Dispenza talks a lot about this. In fact, when you talk about visualization, I'll tell you a quick story. So I was at a workshop, in one of Dr. Joe's workshops, and we had, he would tell you to try to manifest something. And it can be, something really, a feather. a green turtle, you know what I mean? And it'll come in the next couple of days or whatever. So there was this guy and he was thinking, all right, well, I want money. And he said, I'm going to visualize $1 million. And he said, well, that seems a little too greedy to me. And then he said, 100,000. He goes, you know what? Hell with it. I'm going to do $500,000. And he said, he locked in, he got his bank account and he put the numbers in 500,000 on his phone as a screensaver. So when he looked at every time he opened his phone, he saw $500,000 in his bank account. So a couple of weeks go by and he, this is, Dispenza telling the story. And he's like, he emails me and he says, you're never going to believe what happened. And he said, I helped this guy with what my job is to help people sell their companies. And this guy was, I work for this company and this guy was one of my clients and I helped them sell this company. And he said, out of the blue, I got a phone call and it was the guy who just sold the company. And he said, hey, I just want to thank you so much for helping me out with, the sale of the company. And he said, can you give me your banking information? And he's like, wait, what? And he's like, I want your banking information. Can you give me your routing number? And he said, sure. And he said, the next day I look in my bank account and that guy gave me a tip of $500,000. It's sitting in my bank account right now. He said, this opened the door. It wasn't so much, it was great. The money was awesome, but it opened the door of, if I can create that, what else can I create? And what haven't I been creating? Right. So that is all possible for you because I will be a firm believer and tell you, you create your reality. So you got to stop doing what doesn't give you the life that you want and start moving towards what does give you the life that you want. And visualization that's my jam. I mean, that is the one thing I will tell you to do to actually see your future. I say it all the time with the students I work with. A year from now, it's, I don't know, October 20, whatever the hell it is, 2023. Where do you want to be? What's your day? You wake up, eyes open, 6 a.m. Tell me, I want to know, because it's not going to be, well, I'm in a relationship that I don't want to be in. I'm in a job that I don't want to be in, right? You're going to go and start visualizing the actual day that you want. It's visualizing your perfect average day.
Yeah. But then also taking the action, right? We can't have visualization without the action. And
you do, but you have to take inspired action. You can't work off the habitual thought of, feeling unseen and then go out and right. You have to overcome that feeling. And again, there's a lot to that. The mind works the way it works and it's brilliant, but it uses the body. The body is its conspirator. It works with it to help you create this world in which you live. So,
yeah. And I think that people need to they need to realize that there's a narrative that life happens to you. And I think a lot of people might say, oh, why are all these bad things happening to me? When you can flip the script on yourself and say life happens for me or because of me, then your life is going to increase overnight in terms of the quality. And
yeah, I mean, again,
we were talking earlier about
all never happened to you can be your greatest gift. And I mean, that's the title of my book. You know what I mean? Because you just have to look at it in the right way. Because again, when you're in the room on fire, what do? You either go run through the flames or you just lay down and burn, right? So that you have to go after what you want. You have to take steps. It's not, it's not, I'm going to take one step and I'm there. It's little by little by little, and they're inspired steps. So you have to get yourself regulated first. Meditation, huge. Breath work, big proponent. My wife is a Soma breathwork certified coach, amazing at it. Those things for me, when I started to do the meditations, and you can say when I would visualize me standing on the mountain, that's all that was. It was a meditation, right? So if you can get a hold of that and you can slow down your mind and then you can start to picture what you want instead of what you're addicted to, then watch what shows up. That's all I'm saying.
It gets a lot easier.
Watch what shows up.
We need to unlearn a lot of the things that we thought we knew, and we need to reprogram and relearn. Even our thoughts about money that I know we talked about on the phone is like, people have these simple idioms like being filthy rich or that money is the root of all evil. And that goes back to, again, what we were talking about in the beginning. I don't have to step on your neck in order to achieve in order to get more money. We can both win together. We can all win together. And that's a narrative that's not pushed enough in crypto, because I think that everyone thinks, you ask people on the street about crypto and they're like, oh yeah, so are you like a trader? You know, when I say I do crypto for a living, like, oh yes, like trading. I'm like, actually,
I loved when you went on the street, by the way. That was awesome.
Yeah,
that was awesome.
Thank you. I plan to do more of that.
Think about that. You know, here's all these people, and what do you think about crypto? I really don't know anything about it. I'm going to stay away from it or whatever, right? And it's okay. What have you heard of? Well, I've heard of Bitcoin, and a couple people. Well, I've heard of Ethereum, and yeah, I've heard of Doge and all that, right? But they're the same people that say, "What do you think?" Because you were in 18 whatever or 1900s saying, what do you think about this thing called the automobile? Oh, I think it's a fad. I don't think it'll ever work. Horses are the way to go. I mean, I just feed them and they go, So again, history is our proof. And again, if you just have to be bold enough to be bold enough to live bold and live the way you want to live, instead of being being a sheep. And we hear that a lot. It's like,
we've got the meme of like, some people are NPCs, right? Like, as if they're not. I mean, it's a kind of a degrading meme, but it just means people following this path as if they're characters in The Sims and they do the same thing every day and they never think outside the box. And if that's your life, that's going to be your life until you get a shakeup, and something doesn't have to be a near-death experience, but it could just be a really solid or profound meditation. It could be, the loss or gain of a loved one. It could be anything, but you need to have enough.
And we've all gone through all those things, right? We've all had, loss in our life. We've all had that. But, the thing that I always say is, if you look at your life, and your life is built on a scale of 0 to 10. 0, you're the most miserable, the most unhappy, the sickest person you can possibly be. And 10, you can be the happiest, most abundant person that you ever could dream of being. If you wake up at a 5 or less, then you need to do something. Because what you're doing isn't working. Unless, and there's no judgment here, you want to be unhappy. If you want to be unhappy and you want to be a victim instead of the victor in your life, there is no judgment, no problem. I don't want to be the problem of your pain, so it ain't going to be me. So if you wake up at a 5 or less, you have a decision to make. Do I want to keep waking up at a 5 or less, or am I going to do something about it? Am I going to start visualizing? Am I going to start eating right? Am I going to start? Whatever those things are, and you find somebody that's doing it, and they are waking up at an 8, 9, or a 10, and you say, hey, dude, what are you doing? I want to know what you're doing. And listen, if you're waking up at an 8 and you're doing something different than anybody else, crypto can be that, then they may say, well, he's insane. He's lost his mind. He runs around saying that everything that you look at is an illusion. But he seems happy though. Yeah, I know, but that'll probably wear off. 6 months later, hey, how's he doing? Seems really happy. And I got to be honest, a lot of things are really going on for him and he looks really, really good. Yeah, but he's still crazy. And then a year goes by. Hey, how's he? I meant to ask you, how is he doing? Oh my God. And then they come at you and then they say, hey, tell me, I need to know. I need to know what you're doing. That's Steve Jobs. That's Tony Robbins, right?
Yeah.
That's
we can all lead by example in the HEX community as well. We can be that example towards other people that might have gotten wrecked on a scam or that put Bitcoin in 2017, lost all their money. And they're never going to, they swear they're never going to touch it again. I mean, I think these people really can come back once they see the power of all the lives that have been changed by HEX and 100%. Going to be changed by PulseChain. But it's the way we carry ourselves, the way we talk about it. It's not, you catch more flies with honey than vinegar, right? It's not like my coin, your coin sucks, my coin's awesome. It's no, there's something happening here. And if you want to look, I'm ready to tell you.
Well, I mean, the thing of it is, look, I don't care where you look right now. I don't care if you look at our political system. I don't care if you look at the stock market. I don't care if you looked at any crypto that's out there. It's all in the same place. And the one thing that I can tell you that I know, because I've lived through it, because I'm an older dude, that, oh my God, if this is how I tell what this situation is. So you have never been to the ocean before. You live in the middle of Arizona and you go to the beach one day and you go down to the beach and The beach is high tide. You don't know even what a tide is. You don't know. You don't know there's a low tide and a high tide. And you're up at the top of the beach and you see some shells. They're broken, they're small, but you're still picking them up. The next day you go and the tide is out. And you're scared to death because you go, oh my God, what happened to the ocean? You just don't know. And the tide is all the way out. And yet some of the shells are a lot better down there because most of the time they're covered by water. So you come up and you grab them. And there's a guy at the end of the beach and he said, hey, you want a secret? Yeah, sure. He goes, you want some really nice shells? The best shells? So for the next couple of days, there's going to be called what we call a moon tide. And that tide is going to go so far out that there are going to be shells uncovered that you would have never seen before. You would have never. And these guys, all these guys that walk these beaches for these shells, they have no idea about it. So come down here tomorrow. The tide will be out another 20 feet. Everybody will be panicking because they think a tsunami's coming. I know because I've been sitting on this beach for 60 years. It's just a moon tide. This is the time. And I don't care what your vehicle is. And it works in financial, it works in life. This is the time that this is the 2. And what do I know when people are in a 2? An 8 isn't far behind. So you just got to know what people are saying out there while everybody else is running from the ocean because tsunami's coming. You just got to know the real truth. It's a moon tide. It's the bear market, and it's a good one. And this is where money is made, period. It's where the money is made. You don't buy houses at the top of the market. You buy the houses when they're cheap, then they go up. It's simple. But it takes conviction, and it takes knowledge.
It takes knowledge of the repeating patterns, right? You have to have been around the block. And this reminds me of Sci-Vive, Richard's book. There's a quote in there about courage and the courage that it takes to really make a breakthrough. And you need to store this energy ahead of time to really make the breakthrough, because he compares it to a diver taking a really deep breath. And in order to get all the treasure that's buried on the bottom of the ocean floor, you got to take a really deep breath and hold it for a long time as you're swimming down. And you have to make sure that you have enough resilience and persistence, not only to get down, but then to make it all the way back up again. And on your way down is metaphorically the time when everyone's going to be calling you an idiot. Why would you invest in that? Why would you want to put your money in that thing? Like, it's going to zero. People are taking, FUD left and right. But if you don't have the courage to take that deep breath and the conviction and the knowledge, because knowledge is power, it can literally be on your side, you're never going to get back up with all that treasure. Well, everybody else around you is calling you an idiot. So it's dark. It sucks. I get called names all day long. I don't like it, but I have a lot more conviction than I give a fuck about all those guys.
Yeah, and I get that. And again, it is and how many of them are real? You know what I mean? That's the first thing.
It's
and
a very vocal minority. It's like
seriously,
what do I care?
Because you know why? Listen, if those guys are, in the Henry Ford case, you're going to be driving your new Model A, right? Black as it will be, because he only made black Model A's, but you're going to be passing the horses. You're going to be passing the people with the horse, and they're like, what the hell's that? That's that thing that guy was building in the garage that wasn't a garage, right? History is just repeating itself. It's all it's doing. You just got to get right. You just have to not let fear take over you. Fear is the killer. Fear will kill you. It's going to kill you. If you live in fear.
Tell that story about the time that fear literally did kill somebody, the cancer diagnosis. Yeah.
So brilliant. I mean, brilliant. And this is a documented case. And there's a lot of these documented cases, but there was this farmer, and not a super educated guy, lived out on his farm, and he just farmed all day long. Strong guy, started to feel a lot weaker over a period of time. And he finally, by the behest of his family, went to the doctor, and the doctor said, sure, we're going to run some tests and do this. And then gets a call a couple of days later. And the doctor says, listen, I'm really sorry to tell you, but you have an incurable form of cancer. And he just says, okay. So how much time do I have? He says, maybe 3 to 4 months. So almost to the day, 3 months goes by, the farmer dies. They do an autopsy on him, and there's no cancer. There's none. And they're looking for cancer. There is no cancer. So through a mistake, he was told he had cancer. He believed he had cancer, and he died not of cancer, but the thought of cancer. So, and there are so many documented cases like this. It starts to ask us, it makes us ask the question, is what we believe in, if we are ruled by fear, is fear killing us? And what's the opposite of that? To be in grateful and happy and light, and that then you would say that all those things can come to you, right? I mean, this is, what Dr. Joe, Tony Robbins, Eckhart Tolle, you name it, Deepak, whoever has been telling us forever. And now there's all new teachers out here. I'm one of them, telling you, I'm your proof. You will get what you pay attention to. So if there's a bunch of haters out there, well, you better not listen, because that's all you're going to get inside.
And when you really know that when the
somebody
truth is on your
beside us.
side, when the truth is on your side, it's easier to have conviction. When you know that this code is immutable, it can't be changed. Richard Hart, literally, other than being a cheerleader and one of the best cheerleaders we have, he doesn't have anything to do with the protocol itself. I'm talking about HEX, by the way, if that wasn't clear. So in order to realize the actual truth of the situation, you can become a lot more bullish and realize, oh my God, this code isn't going anywhere. It's unhackable. It's 100% uptime. It's replacing a $7 trillion market. So it's got product market fit. It's got thousands of worldwide community members backing it. It's got a great website. It's got real testimonials from real people that have made real money and life-changing wealth and financial freedom. And it's only getting started. It's like buying Bitcoin at a year and a half, years old, because technically in HEX, we're at the levels price-wise that we were at in May 2021. So if you buy HEX today, it's almost like you're taking a time machine back into May 2021 and you're buying it then, and you already know it can go as high as 50 cents. But we know a lot of times in crypto, things don't just go up and tap the top. They do these blow off tops, and how high it runs after that is anybody's guess. I like to just make up numbers. I say $2, $5, $10. I don't know, but I do think it's going past 50 cents. And so that could be life-changing wealth even at 50 cents. Even there, and just to know that the code is not going anywhere. It can't be changed by a corrupt middleman. Like it's just that just helps knowing at night that you can sleep well, because there's nobody pulling the strings. There's no Richard Hart's pumping it or selling it. Like you can actually verifiably see on the blockchain who's buying and selling. It's real people. Origin address has never sold a coin. It's on an immutable blockchain. Like those are the facts. All the other stuff is just stories that people like to tell themselves.
And that's the thing. You got to pay attention to the story you're listening to. We all do. And you have to see what you want in a year from now. I mean, it really is. It's really that simple. And, again, it's yeah.
Yeah, man. I mean, look, we're at an hour 12. I don't know if you've got any other wisdom to share with us, but, or if there's any questions in the chat, I think we could take some questions for Scott here.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And we'll go on a little bit longer. Let's see what chat has to say.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, just with the last comment, the mental game is huge in investing. It's the biggest, right? But again, if you lose, I win, right? And that,
the impatient
and that is
pay the patient, and the patient will be rewarded.
Yep. So that's the difference here. It takes that out.
Yeah. Not a whole lot of questions. I think people are just listening, hopefully soaking it in, and hopefully this does help you if it is your first bear market. I understand. Yeah. I mean, I was in the 2017, and I even bought my first cryptos in the middle of the 2015 bear market, right? And that was a long, drawn out one after the China bubble. And I started doing a lot of the things that I tell people not to do today, but a lot of times you need this experiential knowledge. But just you need to have lived through a couple of crashes to really understand that crypto is not going anywhere, and that certain coins are only going to come back harder and stronger. But if you don't, these are just simple techniques, simple ways to increase your own confidence and get away from that weakness that the FUD is trying to put your way. Because I mean, at the end of the day, it's you that makes the decision. You push the buy button or the sell button. And I hate to see people getting shaken out at the bottom. Like they lose money, they go away, they never come back when they could have had.
Yeah, I mean, I never really understood that. I really don't understand that at all. And I mean, listen, there are so many times that I could have been fudded out of any of the investments that I was in at the time, and again, Apple and AMD, and there was a bunch of others. But that's staying in the game. And it is, it's time in the market, not timing it. And, you know,
and some people are really just chaotic agents. You know what I mean? Some people, they'll sell their hex, and when they don't have a bag anymore, they a lot of times just go away, but sometimes they want to trash talk it and they want to bring everyone else down with them. So think for yourself and have the courage to think for yourself.
Well, think about that. Just in everyday life, if all of a sudden you lose, all this weight and you're looking fantastic, then the person that is at the weight that you were is looking at you saying, yeah, but he did this and he did that, and he's just not that great. Why? Because if you lost all the weight, then that means that they can lose the weight and they just choose not to. So it's the same thing here. So you just choose to hold, and you choose to have conviction in what you're in, and you choose to see the possibility of it, when others, they don't, because they're scared. And then when it does do what you want it to do, then of course they're going to say, oh yeah, well, it's this and it's this and then this. Because think about it. How many people, when they first heard of Hex, and there are a lot of people that, was considering investing. They didn't, because they told them, well, it's just not going to go anywhere, or it's a scam, or it's this, or it's that. And they didn't. And they watched all these other people ride it all the way up, all through big payday, all the way up through even to where it is today. Then, that they're the people that you need to listen to, and not the ones that never did. Because come on, it's sour grapes at this point. Because they are taking the vacations, they're driving the cars, or doing all that, and that's all they want. The others that didn't, that's all that they want. So, you have to really look at where the information is coming from, and don't buy in. Don't buy into that information, because it's not true information. You have to look at the chart. You have to zoom out. You have to see where we are, and you have to decide, is it green candles or red? Yeah. And you have to talk about visualization, right? Well, it's really simple. Just print the chart out and change the dates and put it on your wall, put it on your refrigerator. If that's what you want, then do that. Because chances are, if you have that belief in you, and this is what my life is going to be like, then just get really good at seeing that.
And you'll start acting in accordance with that belief too. Before Hex even blew up, I was starting to feel very, very abundant, like around the time of 2020. You remember when those dark days with the maximum fun?
Oh yeah.
Because I had such a strong conviction, and I was like, well, I'm gonna make this my mission, because I think there's so much potential here. Before I even made any of the money, like, I felt like I was rich, and it was the weirdest thing, because I had never really, I'd heard about, oh yeah, you should do all this stuff, visualization. I listened to Joe Dispenza. I never really got it until I had a financial or a digital asset vehicle that forced me to put my money where my mouth was, and forced me to behave in the method that was best for me. So you do have a choice. Are you going to think for yourself, or are you going to let some random nobodies think for you on Twitter, because that don't really know anything? Or
I mean, that's the Twitter game, right? And we think it's Twitter's algorithm. It's your algorithm, and that's a big deal when you do realize that. Because listen, if you're going to pay attention to the shit, then you're going to get shit. If you pay attention to the roses, you're going to get roses. It's really that simple. So you have to be really careful on where you go. And, maybe you shouldn't go on Twitter. Right. Yeah. And it's difficult, because then you think, well, and we talked about this even with thumbnails in YouTube videos. Right. And people want to, please tell me why this is a scam. For me, it was different, where I was, because I think my first purchase, I think I was 19 cents or 20 cents or something. Right. So so thank God, I love this, because this helps me equal out. Right. But with, and I did that with all the others, AMD, I did that with Apple, and I was very happy, very happy. So when you see these negative thumbnails, it's clickbait, and people, they click on that. Right. And it just goes to show you what people want. They're addicted. They're addicted to negative.
Yeah. And like, it is fun for me to make these thumbnails now that I know that my purpose is good and everything. But it does feel a little like disingenuous at first. But when you realize that you put scam, just the word scam, in your YouTube thumbnail, you're going to get
Quick.
people that want you, like you just said, to
Yeah.
tell them why it's a scam. And then my hope is that I try to target new people, right? So, people
Mhm.
come at me and they're like, "I'll just drop the scam thing already, dude." I'm like, well, I'm not making the video for necessarily for you, the Hex holder, Hex investor. I want to make content for both the
Mhm.
internal community, but I also want to branch out. So I'm hoping
Mhm.
that some people come here with the wanting to hear why it's a scam, and then they get converted into, oh wait, there's actually another side of the Hex story, the narrative, and oh
And
my
I'm
god,
that person.
yep.
I'm that person because that's what I saw. And I said, okay, tell me, I've been through this before.
As an investor,
So
it pays
I
to be a
want to know
contrarian.
why. What's that?
It pays to be a contrarian sometimes,
Yeah, for sure. And that, I mean, well, you're your own person, right?
Yeah.
Your own thought. And I wanted to know why is this thing, because it gets a lot of attention. So, just like Apple, well, who the hell is going to buy Macintosh? I mean, that's just the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Yet here we are, right? So Steve Jobs' idea was better than mine, right? So now it's kind of the same thing. I looked everywhere where it could be, and I did not see that. And I said, "Oh, I'm just in line at the movie theater first. I'm going to get the best seat." And that's where you want to be. I don't want to be searching up in the nosebleeds. I want to be in the first dead center, 5 rows up, right? And that's where we are, and firmly convicted in that.
Oh
So,
yeah. We're watching companies blow up left and right all around us. We're the
it
only
doesn't matter where you
decentralized
look.
protocol that's made people
Yeah.
filthy. I mean, beyond their wildest expectations, right? When
Sure.
it comes to the life-changing wealth, even with a 90% dip for something that went up 10,000x is still 1,000x. So a lot of the people are sitting on hundreds of X's of their investments, and that's life-changing, and it can happen all over again. It really can.
Listen, it's life-changing if it doubles. I mean, even
it's funny that we
traditional
complain
stock
about only a
market.
2x in crypto when people would kill for that in the stock market.
Oh my God, I heard that. I heard 100x. So you have to understand, in traditional markets, you don't have that. You know what I mean? Like oh my God, it's so rare. It's so incredibly rare. Yeah, if you were the original Apple employee, original Google employee, yeah, I mean, you had stock, right? But when you look at, the returns, and that market's still doing the same thing. It's crashing, it's dropping big time, right? So again, it's really being aware of, wait, why can't this happen? Why can't this happen? And take the chart, zoom out, pick your spot that you want. Do you want the 90% down and put that all over your house? Or do you want the green candle? And seriously, and this is the one thing I know, when I first started to go, we talk about Dr. Joe Dispenza, and I love the man. And the impact on my life has been incredible. And this is even after I knew all this stuff. And it's still, because I would go to his workshop and there would be 100 people. Now there's 5,000. And I was viewed as a loon by going. People judge me for going. I'm like, well, go, whatever. But this dude's on something. And now there's people can't get in. It goes on sale, and whatever retreat it is, whatever workshop it is, it gets listed, and it literally is sold out in less than 30 seconds. Literally sold out. And that can be 2,000 to 5,000 people. So again, do you want to be one of the 5,000 people who can't get in the door, or do you want to be one of the 100? It just is this. That's why I say it really is the same pattern. You just got to see the pattern, and you got to see what you're convicted in. And listen, I paid attention, and Hex showed up, and I said, okay, I'm in. And I have firm conviction of where it's going to go.
Yeah.
And with the whole ecosystem.
Dude, I mean, you can't argue with those Joe Dispenza things. People go in there and they come out and they've literally had a physical change. I mean, it sounds absurd. I mean, you've seen it. I've heard about it, but I know you've seen it.
Listen, I have seen people that could not see. I've watched them. I've seen people with canes not able to walk. And why? Because of energy. And it's the energy in that room. And I'm telling you,
it sounds so insane that most people would just dismiss it right away, but it's not so much. I think the logical Western view of
you got to be careful.
Reason and we need
You
science
got to
for
be
everything.
really careful. You have to be really careful with this, because you have a choice. You can be an F1 car, you can be a Lamborghini, or you can be in a carriage behind horses. Because I know people that have illnesses that either I've tried to help, or I would tell them, go to a workshop. Well, that doesn't work. You're right. It doesn't work. Worked for me. It worked for me, and it's worked for these thousands and thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people. But you're right. It's not going to work for you, because that is the stance that you take. And that's the same spirituality. It's the same with crypto. It's the same with HEX. It's the same. You have to be the convictor of it. You have to be the one that says, this is my horse. And that's why I say, get educated.
And so many times we think we want to dissect the particular mechanism by which something worked, when really, if the outcome was good, either way, the outcome was incredible, then how much do you really care about the mechanism of which chemical went into this receptor and all that stuff? Like, there is a scientific basis behind all of this stuff, but just because we're experiencing outcomes that might be beyond the current reach of science doesn't mean they didn't happen. It means that we need to research them a lot more. But with research, like longevity research and cancer research, all that stuff, a lot of times I think people focus so much on what's the mechanism of which cancer is happening, not so much of let's just shoot our shot at all these different approaches and see which one has the highest impact. And then let's figure out how it worked after the fact. Let's dissect it after we've tried it and got some anecdotal, because the experiential evidence is, in my opinion, worth more than any scientific or any, ethereal kind of, because do you understand my point there? It's not a fully formed.
Well, I think what happens is, and if I'm kind of getting you right, I think people, so here's the thing. This is, because listen, I'm a coach. I've been a coach for the last 4 years. And at first I didn't want to do it. I got to be honest, because, people they want to fight for the limitations, and, they'll say, well, this doesn't work. And I'm like, okay, yeah, you're right. It doesn't work. Right. Same as I just said. Yeah, you're right. It doesn't work for you. It worked for me. And it worked for all these other people. So maybe you need to change your thinking. And maybe, instead of wanting to be right, you decide to be happy, because what you're doing isn't working. So if you wake up below a 5, right? So it takes, analytical people need science. They need science to get to the woo-woo, to get to understand, wait a minute, who is doing this? Is this Scott? Or is this bigger than Scott? Who is this? Is this Scott, or am I the universe? What am I? Am I a god, or am I just, a thing that breathes and walks, right? So I think that's the thing that I had to learn, is because I really was a pretty spiritual person, regarding, it doesn't matter what God you are, you're the God. That's just kind of how I saw it. It's kind of how I was raised up, But with other people that are so analytical, they need science. But here's the thing. They're going to view the science in the way that they think. So if that doesn't, and it's amazing when you see this, how you see it's reading a text 5 different ways.
Yeah.
You're going to read that text and you're going to see it in a different way, because you are in a different emotion than I'm at.
It's like we need to talk text. It's like that most of the time. That's I look at it as like a bad thing. It's like, what if they just want to talk? What if someone just wants to catch up? But no, so I don't want to say that I like science, and I like the original principles of science, which is simply just asking a question and then doing tests on your hypothesis or question to see if it was true or not. But then we've even seen this with the, I don't want to mention it, but the big thing that happened for the past 2 years, the big event that people got sick. There was so much proclamation of follow the science, not looking into what was the method, what was the actual study done. Is it just the science, or what was the method of, hypothesis testing, extrapolation and all that stuff. So yeah, science as a blanket term, as a belief system, I don't like. I like science as a methodology.
Because you can take it in any direction. So, that what you're talking about, that whole time, I was probably that was probably some of the best times I've ever had in my life. Honest to God. Because I didn't pay any attention to it. I just didn't, when it started, my wife was like, listen, you know, where we were, it was cold. I don't want to be here. I want to go to Florida. 3 days. Give me 3 days. I'm the only person on this freaking plane. Because, and you know, I had a conversation with a lawyer the day before. I said, well, listen, I'm getting on a plane. Getting on a plane? What is wrong with you? I said, dude, trust me. You have no idea what I've been through. This ain't scaring me. I'm sorry. It's good. If it kills me, it kills me. Whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I remember posting on Facebook, I had my feet on a dock and a picture saying, living my best life. Oh my God.
The hate.
My friends, right? The hate that came out. How dare you? How irresponsible. Oh my God, calm down. Just calm down. And I did a live the next day. And I'm just like, God, would you just see yourself for a second? The fear that we feed ourselves. I just choose not to live in fear. I just choose not to live. Listen, I'm going to die. Whether it's tomorrow or I've been faced with it many times, I'm still here. So something's on my side. Maybe tomorrow's not my day. I don't know. But
wouldn't that be ironic? You just get hit by a bus.
I know, right? I mean, but listen, that exists for us. And maybe you die every night.
Yes.
You go to bed.
That's a trippy thought.
That's what I say. Mm-hmm. Well, here's the thing that I would say to people. Do you remember your birth? Do you remember the experience of your birth? Like you actually coming out of
No, and I'm glad I don't.
Right. So why do we automatically see death the way that we see it? Right. And that is always fascinating me because obviously I've been in front with tragedy. My best friend drowned in front of me. And in that moment, I saw something different. And I seen him get to go home. And there's a part of me too that is having the same reaction of, oh my God, what has happened and was it my fault? Right. So that's what I had away for years. But we see it is our perspective of things. And if you're scared of death, then you're going to be scared of life. So if we just, maybe I die every night. Maybe I'm already dead. I've said that many times. Maybe I'm already dead.
Maybe we all died in 2012, right? The Mayan calendar.
Exactly. Maybe we did. And maybe death isn't what we think it is. Yeah. Maybe death is just it's a level up.
The rebirth or level up. We
went from
whatever.
JV to varsity. We got off the JV team and we went to the varsity team. Maybe that's what death is. And reality becomes better. You start to see things differently, maybe a little bit more clear. Maybe you see things that you never saw before, like abundance. Yeah. Like partners, like relationships, right? Yep. Yourself in the mirror. So again, we have these convictions that maybe just need to be challenged. That's all I'm saying. Yeah. They just need to be challenged. You need to look at them in the right way and not be so dependent on what you see out there, because what you see out there is affected by what you're thinking in here. You have this as a filter and it goes in here before you see it here. Yes. So if you just know that, you got to change the filters in here. Yes. To actually get what you actually want. No matter the vehicle.
And that filter, I think, is going to be the most important skill of the next decade or century, really, because we've never had to process information at a faster rate. But what you're saying, I think, is, going back to the pandemic, I think the real virus is fear. The real
100% it is.
The real pandemic.
But here's the thing. Okay, so let's think about this in my case, and this is why I get excited. I get really excited by this because I know what laying in that bed did for me. It literally changed the direction of my life for the better. I mean, my God, I can't even imagine. I would have never thought that my life would be the way it is right now. So if laying in that bed changed my life in that drastic amount for the better, what is all this fear going to do for us? Because this fear is just all of us laying in that bed. We aren't paralyzed laying in a bed. We're paralyzed mentally. We're paralyzed by fear. And what has to happen? You have to get tired of being fearful. You have to be tired of being constantly worried about the next thing, where you just say, I can't do it anymore. The stress is too much. All this is too much. I'm getting cancer throughout my body. I need to chill, man.
Well, you know how people say online, like that post gave me cancer or whatever. And I start to feel that way every couple of months, So I have a series of probably much more mild, but just peaks and valleys of fear and then, oh my God, I need to chill out. Like, let me take, and I do this periodically for as long as I can remember. That's just kind of how I have lived my life. But, it's such a good reminder. And I really needed that at this point in particular, because just even 2 days ago, I was at that point of anger and frustration. And it's a really good reminder for me. It's something I've known my whole time, my whole life in the back of my head. But it was also nice to watch you on the Cryptographics channel, and the coincidence, or the what do you call it? Coincidence with meaning? It's a serendipitous, right? Kind of
serendipitous. Yeah. But remember the scale, right? It's euphoria, and then it's right. It's depression, it's anger, it's all that. So again, look at where you are. And I'm not just saying in HEX, I'm not just saying in crypto, I'm not just saying in the markets, I'm not just saying financially, I'm saying in your life, where you are. And if you're down here, where the best place to be is right here. It's right here, because then what's coming. I say that to people all the time. If you're a 2, you know what's coming. A 5's coming, and then a 7's coming, and then a 10's coming, and then you go off the chart. And then when you're at the top, then what? Back of the wave, baby. Back of the wave is coming. So where is the best place to be? You just got to get perspective right. Best place to be is right at the turn, right here, man. This is it, baby. This is
the bottom of the parabola, right? Just like the price chart.
Goodness. So you need to take that chart and you need to blow it up, and you say, we are here, and oh my God, it's going to be a great ride up, baby.
That's the only way to go. The only way to go is up.
It's the only way to go.
Nice, man. Great. Hey, you know what? That sounds like a good thing to end it on. Guys, I hope you really enjoyed that one. Shout out to Scott Sunderland here. His book is in the description below if you really want to read it. I'd recommend it because I just ordered it as well. I can't tell you if it's good or bad. I have to read it, but I'm sure it's very good.
I promise you it's good. I wouldn't put it out there if it wasn't. And it's short. I wrote it. Yeah, I wrote it so you could read it.
I'm sold at short. That's all I needed.
Yeah, I know. It's not. Oh God. Well, in my company, I had 50 union carpenters that worked for me, and I wanted them to read the book. So I had to make it short. I really had to make it short because I just wanted to.
Well, look, I'm really glad you're here in the community, and I hope to do another stream sometime in the future. And I hope a lot of people can continue to learn from you and reach out if they might need anything or whatever that may be. But you're an absolute asset. So thank you again. And I'll see you guys on the next video.
So good.
Bye, guys.